Hi, welcome to Edward Box Guitar Tuition. So my classic album inspection today is King's X's sophomore album, Gretchen Goes to Nebraska, released June 27th, 1989, so it's 35 years old today. So one of the things with King's X is why weren't it bigger? That is the eternal question. Incredible musicians, great songwriting, really unique sound, incredible benchmark vocal harmonies, right up there with the greatest artists, Crosby, Stills and Nash, Queen, The Sweet, those kind of bands that did those multiple harmonies, right up there with any of those bands. So I'll try and kind of explain that, I think, in a bit. So this obviously follows About the Silent Planet, which is a really classic debut. A couple of little filler tracks on that. I was talking to a friend before about it, and he says the production on that is too sterile. I like it, but the production on this is similar, but maybe a little more organic. But I think the main thing with the King's X productions is I think Sam Taylor did a good job. He harnesses a unique sound with punchy drums, big bottom end, big bass, and with a bit of clank that Doug Pinnick's renowned for. And then Ty Tyball's heavily chorus sound, which would normally be a turn off for me, but works great. And they're just incredibly tight. So this album actually follows a loose concept. It's based on a story written by Jerry Gaskell. But let's just get into it. So the main difference between this, I think, and Out of the Silent Planet, this has 12 tracks instead of 10. And it's got a bit more sort of acoustic guitars. It's got a bit more lighter elements, and I think it benefits from that. Obviously Out of the Silent Planet does benefit from having less tracks, so you've got a bit more consistency at times. But it opens up with Out of the Silent Planet, so again that weird thing when bands name a track after one of their album titles but it's not on the album. This is a great track. It's got a great Lydian sort of tritone riff. Really cool riff by Ty Tyball. Great sort of drone guitar part at the start with some kind of cool octave effect. It might be actually Doug as well on bass. It might be bass. Could be 12 string. Don't quote me. But it sounds massive. Doug and Ty Tyball sing on this. Really good the way it breaks down in the middle as well. Just a great opening track. Is it a better track than In the New Age as an opener? I think it is. Next up is Over My Head. I mean, this was a track that kind of did a little bit for the band. It had a good video. I think it got a bit of MTV play. This wasn't the first time I'd heard the band. My brother had Out of the Silent Planet. Basically, he bought it the first week it came out on the back of their Stella Kerrang review and the fact they were on the front cover. And I probably gave it about half a dozen, maybe 10 spins. And I quite liked it, but I just couldn't totally get into it. Wasn't ready for it. I skipped Gretchen, and then Over My Head was on something like the Power Hour, and this was around the time that Faith, Hope and Love was coming out as well, I think. And I was like, oh, it's really good that I'll go back and check those King's X albums out, and I went on from there. Over My Head's a great track, great Ty Tyball solo. Ty's playing on this is excellent, probably a notch up from his playing on Out of the Silent Planet. Basically, he's got good chops, but he's gutsy and bluesy. He's got a rootsiness to his playing. And like his chorus sound doesn't detract from that, that the fact that it's got that processing. It just gives him a unique thing. Famously, Ty Tyball used a very strange amp. I forget what it was called, but he used to tape over it so no one knew what it was. And he had a weird issue of a Strat from 1983. I forget what they were called, but they didn't make many of them. Weighed a ton or something, but had really cool pickups. And he grabbed that in '83 when it came out, and that was kind of like part of his sound at that time. Then you got Summerland, 3 minutes 17. This is one of the standout cuts on the album. Again, you got a lovely sort of arpeggiated picked guitar part from Ty Tyball. This song builds really well, and then when it gets that bam, 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 now riff coming in, really good. Again, 3 minutes 17. They really kind of managed to accomplish a lot in such a short space of time on this track. Then you got Everybody Knows a Little Bit of Something. This is probably one of the album's weaker tracks. It's okay. 3 minutes 57. But the next track, The Difference, brackets, In the Garden of St Anne's on the Hill. This again brings in the lovely sort of acoustic guitar, maybe some track 12 string of clean in there. It brings in a lighter shade that's missing from Out of the Silent Planet, and it's a really, really cool track again. lovely harmonics on this. Tabor sings this. 3 minutes and 8 seconds. Again, the band accomplishes a lot with a short arrangement. Then you've got I'll Never Be the Same. This is written by the band and someone called Marty Warren, 4 minutes 56. The principal reason for this being longer, it's got an amazing ending that King's X were famous for, is where they kind of go some crazy timing. Basically, the drums are just playing a straight 4 on the floor, and the riffing and the bass is kind of looping at the different time signatures with unusual chord voicings. One thing Tabor did was made really good use of dominant 7th shape, like the Hendrix shape. So I was putting what we call the sharp 9 on the top, and he did some weird chromaticisms and spin things out of key in a really cool way. So that was the finish of the original side 1. Really, obviously really good. The first 3 tracks brilliant, the difference brilliant. I'll Never Be the Same, very good. Everyone knows about something okay. On the side 2, you had The Mission, again sort of bringing in the religious lyrics with this, really catchy, quite a cool intro with sort of church organ sound. Then it's got some great sort of Doug Pinnick screams on this. Then you got Fall on Me. It's got an amazing. This is quite groovy. This when I was listening to it in the car, I had it on, and my wife pointed said, "Oh, this sounds a bit like Living Colour." I never thought of that before. Obviously, Doug is a black singer, so you've got that kind of black soul to his vocal stylings, and it's quite funky. And then it's grooving along, so I could kind of see that was quite interesting. Fall on Me, it's got a great sort of block harmony in the middle with guitars moving underneath. Really good, really uplifts you. Then you got another one of the album's like real standouts cuts, again using the light and shade. This is Pleiades. I think this was a track a friend was telling me that they kind of wrote. This was the thing that developed the sound. They'd been having no luck when they were sneak peek or sneak preview, whatever they're called, and they were driving back from being rejected, and Tabor said, "Oh, I've come up with this song, like it's kind of drop D, Beatlesy," and this I think, I could be wrong, was kind of the beginning of like changing the sound. I should say that King's X are the people to kind of not popularise, but to use the drop G tuning in a unique way. Obviously people like Van Halen and Rat had used it, but to kind of create a lot of riffs out of it and get those different voicings. And they're interesting as well, not like other bands when they just use the thing where you can play with one finger. So Pleiades, great track, and it's great, it builds up heavy. Don't Believe It, brackets, it's easier said than done, 3 minutes and 7. Again, this is kind of a weaker track for me. I mean, I think really on this album it could have been 10 tracks, although the 2 weaker tracks would come about the same place actually. I don't mind. Then you got Send a Message. I don't like this track quite as much. It's kind of where the religious thing, the trouble in the kingdom, send a message to the king, again we'll come to that. And then it finishes with Estella, the Burning Down, which is really good. It's got a lovely kind of breakdown into the Lydian mode, and it's very atmospheric. This worked really well live, and they used to break it out live. Apparently when King's X played in the UK on this tour, I wasn't at those shows, but they played the whole of the Out of the Silent Planet album, and they played virtually all of this. I'm just looking at the Silent Planet's 42, 43. So this is 52 minutes. So take a track off, there you've got a 90-minute set of music, haven't you? So pretty amazing. When I saw them, it was on the Faith Open Love. They played loads of the cooler cuts off that. I mean, the albums are good. Loads of great stuff at the first film. So it's one of those legendary shows in the city where I'm based, Newcastle. Okay, so what am I marking this album out of 10? I'd probably give it a 9, 8.5. It's got 9 absolutely corking tracks, and then kind of 3 okay tracks. But the tracks, when they're good, are cracking. So why didn't King's X get bigger? This is the big sort of thing, and it's something I've been thinking about. I think it's a combination of a few factors. I think essentially they have got a muso proggy element about them. You go to a King's X gig, you talk to musicians, they'll all talk about King's X. People who are less that way inclined are interested. I know people who've just never liked King's X. So that's the first thing, and that can make them sort of sound a bit alienating. Not in the way that Rush is, because it's weird, because Rush has got some kind of universal geek thing. going on. I don't know, maybe it's Neil Pearce lyrics, maybe it's Geddy Lee's vocals, I don't know. Obviously different band, but you know, the three piece. But I think there's that element. I think the religious lyrics, they were tied in with the Christian rock thing, but not massively. But in the period that they're making albums, there's a move away, obviously from hair metal lyrics, to lyrics that are going to be introspective and speak to alienated youth. And King's X's lyrics don't do that. They're too spiritual and a little impenetrable at times, I must say. For me, anyway. Not a song like Goldilocks. And the other thing I think is, image-wise, they kind of, when it came out, they're sort of at the tail end of the hair thing. Ripped jeans, slightly hairsprayed hair, and then the tunic of Doug Pinnick, and you know, that, although it's not a glam metal image, those are the sort of things you can see glammy bands wearing. So they never had an alternative rock lyric image, and they never really got there with the image. They just didn't have an image, basically. So that's the first port of call. Then you've got to look at what's going on at the time, and they just fall into these kind of wrong pockets. I think one of the first problems is they were signed to Megaforce Atlantic. So they're signed to an independent label, and the label had distribution for Atlantic. But that doesn't mean that Atlantic's going to pump money in. They're just going to open up their distribution, possibly some promo. So Megaforce, great label for getting bands started, but I don't remember any big bands staying on Megaforce. Testament left, obviously Metallica left them, and so on. King's X would eventually go to Atlantic on their fourth album, but it was a bit too late then, and that's of their first 5 albums, which are generally the ones that are discussed in detail. Their fourth one for me is quite a notch below those. So they didn't have the push. The other mistake was that the Goldilocks by them should have been released as a single, or if it was, it should have been pushed. I don't think it was. There's no reference to it being a single here. Obviously they had singles out, but they needed to get an opening track out off that album and do a good video for Goldilocks. And if it had the pluggers and the push of Atlantic, maybe they could have got a gold record from Out of the Silent Planet. I should say that I don't think King's X are a band that we're going to have a multi-platinum album. We'll come to that. If you look at the era they're making music, they're in that gap between what's happening is basically you have heavy metal getting popular in 83 in the US, 82, Priest have a minor hit, it only makes number 66 where You've Got Another Thing Coming. But that shows that kind of metal, heavier stuff can get on radio a bit. Then Quite Right break out in 83, Dio, Ozzy's Big, and so on. And those bands kind of fairly sensible into 1984, but once you get into 85, the glam metal thing comes in, and then the hair gets bigger into 86, 87. Although these bands are still popular, a reaction starts, I think, amongst metal fans. And that's twofold. Basically, people in pursuit of authenticity, want more authentic music and message and attitude to go towards thrash, quite rightly so. Obviously Metallica jeans and t-shirt, and they become very big along with the other elements of the big four. And then out of this springs what I call alternative rock, alternative metal, whatever you want to call it, and that's funk metal, funk rock, you know, and so on. I'll go through a few of the bands. But what this does is it provides an alternate, something more different in sound, but less reliant on the image for the audience pursuing that. Not all of this gets very big initially, but King's X, I think, are part of this. Now, Out of the Silent Planet, as I'm just looking at my notes, is released March 28th, 1988. And that's kind of the second album to come out of these types of bands. I would argue the first one is Introduce Yourself by Faith No More, which is 23rd of April 1987. So I'm well aware in our country we used to listen to We Care a lot. It was on the Power Hour and things like that. But Faith No More didn't get big. They didn't get big till The Real Thing in June 20th when it came out in 1989. Going by the end of 1989 into 90, Faith No More were getting really big. And one of the main reasons is the song's really catchy, but they changed frontman with Mike Patton. And they had a figure that they could kind of glue to. And a sort of quirky image with Jim Martin. So Faith No More out there. Later on in that year, within a space of a week, in August 16th, August 23rd, 1988, Jane's Addiction released Nothing Shocking. Again, this won't be really popular when it initially comes out, but eventually it will go double platinum. And in August 1990, they released Ritual Habitual, which at the time goes gold, and is building. It will eventually go double platinum. So, King's X are kind of first or second out of the box, but because these other bands have got kind of down, obviously Perry Farrell's a great frontman, Dave Navarro's a very cool looking guy. There's more to latch on to, I feel. Another band in 1988 that didn't get anywhere because they didn't know how to market them, but again were part of this, but very different sound, I would argue, and I'm arguing here's the Dan Reed Network. Now the Dan Reed Network of course had a more of a AOR sound at the time, but they had that funk element, that multiculturalism, bringing in musicians of different ethnicities. And again, their album tanked. The record company didn't know what to do with it. So, and again, Dan Reed looked amazing. He did have some really great songs. Then May 3rd, 1988. Now that's actually again this predates the Jane's Addiction. Is Vivid Living Colour. Again, a band, African American band. Corey Glover. It obviously is different singer to Doug Pinnick, but again, a better frontman, a better image, like quite a good female following, and then a big hit with cult personality. They were on a bigger label, and that album went double platinum eventually. The album after it, Time's Up, didn't get certified. So again, someone like Living Colour doing really well initially, but not sustaining it. I think my argument here is even if King's X had a big album, a gold or platinum album, there's nothing to say that they would have continued that. I don't know. Then you get July 1990. You have the first sort of Seattle album, Apple by Mother Love Bone. Obviously Andrew Wood dies and negates it, but the month later, the next month, August 21st, is Facelift by Alice in Chains. And Alice in Chains were a band that would take elements of the King's X sound, the vocal harmonies, the drop D guitars, but again, they were more metal. They had a charismatic frontman, Elaine Staley, and they sung the kind of lyrics that youth would react to, I think. Also, that album went gold, but it didn't sort of totally break out. And then, they were on a major label, but it's done much better. And then, obviously, 2 years later, they do the Dirt album. That's like a massive album. Another band, but Nirvana released Bleach in June 1989. Again, very alternative rock. It only sold 40,000 copies, but that's actually pretty good for an independent release, Sub Pop. Obviously by 91, September 91, Nevermind will come out, and that's the beginning of the change in sound. Now, in this period, King's X have already released 3 albums, but they haven't caught on the way these bands will, obviously, especially Nirvana. Another band from that time who coming in very late into this, who had drop D tunings, vocal harmonies, Beatles influence, but were a bit more metal, is Saigon Kick. Now their first album didn't do very well, but their second one in 92, The Lizard, went gold. Again, the similarities with the King's X sound, they managed to get a gold disc on the back of a hit single, which King's X didn't have. I mentioned Mother's Milk is at August 16th, Chili Peppers 1989 again. That's coming out about the same time as this, and that goes gold and then builds up to the huge success of Blood Sugar Sex Magic. But I think the difference with the Chili Peppers, again, you've got that they've only had a few albums, they've got that crazy image, it's kind of made for MTV. So that's, going through and looking at what's happening around the time of King's X, I think that shows a kind of reason why they didn't quite break through. By the time they got on Atlantic and got on AC/DC's tour, maybe that was 91 actually, maybe they signed to Atlantic after Faith, Hope and Love, I think, and then they got on the Razor's Edge tour, I think, and they were getting that exposure, but they're not really suitable for an AC/DC audience. They're too muso, they're too, it's not the right thing. So I doubt that encouraged a massive amount of interest. I know when they were on the Woodstock 94 show, they had a band track featured, a lot of people watched it, and their albums didn't increase in sales the following week. And it's just that thing, people who discovered King's X, really into them, great. People who maybe heard them or were played to them by mates went, not for me. I think essentially people like simple, more direct music. It's very rarely that muso music breaks out more. Although, you know, bands like Tool have done very well and so on. So, yeah, that's kind of my take on it. You know, I still like a bit of King's X. This was kind of like the one sort of alternative band I could kind of get on board with, and I guess was kind of helpful to me when I was in my early 20s, because I couldn't really get into Seattle thing and stuff like that. But I kind of went away from it and went more back to my classic rock and so on. But this album and the first album are definitely well worth checking out. I think that's one last thing. I think whatever album you first heard by King's X is often people's favourites. And I think that tells a story as well, as their albums have a similar sound. You know, they arrived fully formed, you know. So, you know, if you arrived at album 4, their King's X album, you might really like that. I'm not as fussed with it, but it's that thing on Dogman later on. Okay, so remember, share and subscribe. I hope you enjoyed that. I've gone on quite a bit, but I just wanted to, you know, get into that, you know, little history there of what was going on in alternative rock and alternative metal circles at the end of the 80s. And I'll see you again soon. Thanks very much.